Have you ever trusted someone so completely that when they stabbed you in the back, you actually smiled? My name is David Martinez, and 5 days ago, I closed a $22 million deal that should have set me up for life. Instead, it got me fired by my own wife's nephew. But here's the thing about revenge: sometimes you don't have to lift a finger. Sometimes you just have to wait. And smile. Let me take you back to the beginning. 6 months ago, I was the top sales director at Pinnacle Industries, a mid-sized manufacturing company. I'd been there for 12 years. 12 long years of building relationships, closing deals, and making the company millions. The CEO, Harold Chen, trusted me completely. My team respected me. Everything was perfect. Until Marcus arrived. Marcus Hoffman. 26 years old. Fresh MBA from Wharton. And unfortunately for me, my wife Sarah's nephew. When Sarah asked if I could help Marcus get a job at Pinnacle, I said yes without hesitation. Family is family, right? I should have said no. Marcus started as a junior sales associate on my team. Bright kid, I'll give him that. Ambitious. Maybe too ambitious. But I liked his energy. I took him under my wing, shared my strategies, introduced him to my clients. I treated him like the son I never had. That was my first mistake. The Pemberton account landed on my desk on a cold Tuesday morning in March. Pemberton Manufacturing, a Fortune 500 company looking to outsource their entire component production line. $22 million over 3 years. The biggest deal in Pinnacle's history. I knew it wouldn't be easy. Pemberton had worked with the same supplier for 15 years. They weren't looking to change because they wanted to. They were looking to change because they had to. Their current supplier was failing them, missing deadlines, quality issues mounting. But even desperate companies don't hand over $22 million to just anyone. I spent weeks researching every detail about Pemberton. Their company culture, their pain points, their decision makers. I flew to Chicago 3 times just to have coffee with their procurement director, Janet Walsh. I learned she had 2 daughters in college, struggled with work-life balance, and loved her rescue dog named Biscuit. Marcus watched me work. He asked questions. Smart questions. I was proud of him. I thought I was mentoring the next generation. I was actually training my replacement. The breakthrough came in week 4. Janet mentioned that Pemberton's current supplier couldn't meet their sustainability requirements. New regulations were coming down the pipeline, and they needed a partner who could help them go green without sacrificing quality or timeline. That night, I worked until 3 a.m. developing a comprehensive sustainability proposal. Carbon-neutral shipping, recycled materials, solar-powered manufacturing facilities. I created a presentation that didn't just meet their requirements, it exceeded them. Marcus was there when I finished it. 2 in the morning, just the 2 of us in the office. "Uncle David," he said, "this is incredible. This is going to change everything for Pinnacle." I smiled. "That's the plan, kid. This is how you build a career. One relationship, one solution at a time." He nodded eagerly. Too eagerly. The next morning, I called Janet to set up a presentation meeting. She was excited. We scheduled it for the following Friday. 5 days to polish the proposal, rehearse the pitch, and prepare for what would either be the biggest win of my career or a very expensive learning experience. I worked day and night. Sarah barely saw me that week. When she complained about me missing dinner again, I explained this was it. This was our ticket to financial freedom. The commission on this deal would pay off our mortgage, fund our retirement, maybe even buy that beach house she'd always dreamed of. "Just don't let it consume you," she said, kissing my forehead. "And take care of Marcus. He looks up to you so much." If only she knew. Friday arrived. I was ready. My presentation was flawless, my materials pristine, my confidence sky high. I'd practiced my pitch so many times I could deliver it in my sleep. But something felt wrong the moment I walked into Pinnacle's conference room. Harold Chen was there. Normal. Janet Walsh had agreed to visit our offices for the presentation. Also normal. But Marcus was there too, sitting next to Harold with a stack of presentation materials that looked suspiciously familiar. "David," Harold said, standing to shake my hand. "I hope you don't mind, but I've asked Marcus to co-present today. He's been working closely with you on this account, and I think it would be valuable for him to get this experience." My blood turned to ice. "Of course," I said, forcing a smile. "Happy to have the support." Marcus grinned at me. That should have been my second warning. The presentation began. I started with the opening, my carefully crafted introduction that I'd rehearsed dozens of times. But as I spoke, I noticed Janet looking confused. She kept glancing at Marcus, then back at me, as if she was expecting something different. Then Marcus stood up. "If I may interrupt," he said smoothly, "I think there might be some confusion about who's leading this presentation today." The room went silent. Harold looked puzzled. Janet looked uncomfortable. I felt like I was watching a car accident in slow motion. Marcus continued, his voice confident and clear. "David has been a wonderful mentor throughout this process, but this proposal was actually developed by me, with his guidance of course. I've been the primary contact with Pemberton for the past 6 weeks." Time stopped. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. "Marcus," I said slowly, "I think there's been some misunderstanding actually." Janet interrupted, "Marcus is correct. He's been my main point of contact. We've had several phone calls and email exchanges. I was under the impression he was the lead on this account." The floor disappeared beneath my feet. I stared at Marcus, searching his face for any sign of the kid I'd mentored, the family member I'd trusted. Instead, I saw a stranger wearing Marcus's face, and that stranger was smiling. Harold cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should clarify the roles before we continue. Marcus, can you walk us through your relationship with Pemberton?" For the next 10 minutes, I watched Marcus systematically erase me from the narrative. Every phone call I'd made, every email I'd sent, every relationship I'd built, he claimed them all. And he had documentation to prove it. Forward emails showing him as the sender. Meeting notes with his name on them. A timeline that showed him as the primary contact from day one. I realized, with growing horror, that he'd been planning this for weeks. Every late night I'd worked, every strategy session we'd had, every piece of information I'd shared, he'd been building a case to steal my deal. And I'd helped him do it. If you're enjoying this story of corporate betrayal and revenge, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Trust me, what comes next will blow your mind. The presentation continued, but it wasn't my presentation anymore. It was Marcus's presentation, delivered with my words, my research, my strategy. And he was brilliant at it. Confident, polished, persuasive. Everything I'd taught him turned against me. Janet was impressed. Harold was beaming with pride. And I was standing there like a fool, watching my career collapse in real time. When it was over, Janet shook Marcus's hand. "This is exactly what we've been looking for," she said. "I'll recommend to our board that we move forward with Pinnacle. You've done exceptional work, Marcus." Marcus glowed. "Thank you, Janet. I'm excited about the partnership." She turned to me almost as an afterthought. "David, thank you for your support role in this. Marcus speaks very highly of your mentorship." Support role. 6 months of work, and I'd been reduced to a support role. After Janet left, Harold pulled Marcus aside for a private conversation. I could see them through the glass walls of his office, Harold gesturing enthusiastically, Marcus nodding with false modesty. I knew what they were discussing. Promotion. Bonus. Recognition for the biggest deal in company history. That evening, Sarah was cooking dinner when I got home. She was humming, happy, excited to hear about the presentation. "How did it go?" she called from the kitchen. I stood in our living room, looking at the family photos on the mantel. Marcus was in several of them. Christmas dinners, birthday parties, family barbecues. The nephew we'd welcomed into our home, into our lives. "It went well," I said finally. "Marcus did great." The next Monday morning, I was called into Harold's office. Marcus was already there, sitting across from Harold's desk like he belonged there. "David," Harold began, "please, sit down." We need to discuss some concerns that have come to light about the Pemberton account. Concerns? My mouth went dry. It's come to my attention, Harold continued, that there may have been some irregularities in how this deal was handled. Some confusion about roles and responsibilities. I looked at Marcus. He wasn't meeting my eyes. Harold opened a folder on his desk. I've been reviewing the documentation for this account, and frankly, David, I'm concerned about what I'm seeing. He pulled out a series of emails. My emails. But they'd been altered. Timestamps changed, recipients modified, content edited to make it look like I'd been taking credit for Marcus's work instead of the other way around. These emails suggest that you've been presenting Marcus's work as your own, Harold said. That you've been claiming credit for his relationship-building efforts, his research, his strategic insights. I felt like I was drowning. Harold, those emails have been manipulated. I can show you the originals. I've also received a complaint from Pemberton, Harold interrupted. Apparently, there was some confusion during initial contact about who was representing Pinnacle. Janet Walsh mentioned that she received conflicting messages from different team members, which reflected poorly on our organization. Marcus spoke for the first time. I didn't want to bring this up, Uncle David, but I felt I had to protect the company's relationship with Pemberton. Uncle David. He said it with just the right amount of reluctance, like he was betraying family for the greater good. Harold nodded approvingly. Marcus came to me last week with these concerns. He was reluctant to speak up because of your family relationship, but his integrity wouldn't allow him to stay silent. Integrity. The word hit me like a physical blow. I'm sorry, David, Harold continued, but this kind of behavior is unacceptable at Pinnacle. Taking credit for a junior team member's work, creating confusion with clients, potentially damaging our professional relationships. I have to take action. The room was spinning. 6 months of work. 12 years of loyal service. My reputation, my career, my future, all disappearing because of a kid I tried to help. You're firing me, I said. It wasn't a question. I'm afraid so, Harold replied. Effective immediately. HR will discuss your severance package and transition plan. Marcus finally looked at me. For just a moment, I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Guilt. Regret. But it was gone so fast I might have imagined it. I'm truly sorry it came to this, Uncle David, he said. I hope you understand I had no choice. I stood up slowly. My legs felt like rubber. Of course you had a choice, Marcus. We all have choices. And then, for reasons I still don't fully understand, I smiled. It wasn't a bitter smile. It wasn't angry or sarcastic. It was genuinely peaceful. Like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Good luck with the Pemberton account, I said. I hope everything works out exactly the way you've planned. Harold looked surprised by my calm reaction. Marcus looked confused, maybe even a little disappointed that I wasn't fighting back. I walked to the door, then turned back. Just remember, Marcus, in this business, reputation is everything. It takes years to build and seconds to destroy. I'm sure you'll figure that out soon enough. I left Pinnacle Industries that day with nothing but a cardboard box of personal items and a smile on my face. Sarah was waiting in the parking lot, tears in her eyes. Someone had called her. I'm so sorry, she said. I can't believe Marcus would do this. I raised that boy like he was my own son. It's okay, I told her. And surprisingly, it was. Sometimes people show you who they really are when you least expect it. What are you going to do? I looked back at the Pinnacle building, then at my wife of 15 years. I'm going to do absolutely nothing. She looked confused. Nothing. Nothing, I confirmed. Sometimes the best revenge is simply stepping back and letting people create their own consequences. The first consequence came faster than I expected. That Wednesday, 3 days after my firing, my phone rang. Unknown number. David Martinez? Speaking. This is Janet Walsh from Pemberton Manufacturing. I hope you don't mind me calling your personal number. I got it from your business card. My heart rate spiked. Not at all, Janet. How can I help you? Well, This is a bit awkward, she began, but I've been trying to reach Marcus at Pinnacle for 2 days about some implementation questions, and he hasn't returned my calls. I was hoping you might be able to help me get in touch with him. I paused. Janet, I'm not sure if you've been informed, but I'm no longer with Pinnacle Industries. Silence on the other end. Then, what do you mean? I was let go on Monday. Marcus is handling the account now. I don't understand, Janet said. You were the one who developed this entire proposal. You understood our needs better than anyone. Why would they? This doesn't make sense. I could hear the concern in her voice. I wish I could explain it, Janet, but I think you'd need to speak with Pinnacle directly about their internal decisions. David, she said slowly, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Of course. Was Marcus really the primary contact for this account? Because I've been thinking about our interactions over the past few months, and something doesn't add up. My pulse quickened. What do you mean? I mean, every email I received from Marcus felt different. Like it was written by someone else. The tone, the word choice, even the way he signed his name. And during phone calls, he always seemed to be reading from notes, like he wasn't familiar with the details we'd already discussed. I stayed silent, letting her work through it. But your emails, she continued, they were personal. You remembered things about my family, my concerns, my company's specific needs. You wrote like someone who actually cared about solving our problems, not just closing a deal. Janet. Did Marcus steal this account from you, David? The question hung in the air between us. I could end Marcus's career with a single word. I could expose the truth and potentially salvage my reputation. But I'd promised myself I wouldn't interfere. I can't answer that question, Janet. That's between you and Pinnacle. She was quiet for a long moment. I understand. But David, I want you to know, if you ever start your own consulting firm or join another company, I'd be very interested in working with you. Your approach to business is exactly what we need. After she hung up, I sat in my home office staring at the phone. Janet Walsh wasn't stupid. She'd figured it out on her own. And if she had questions, other people probably did too. The second consequence came on Friday. Sarah found me in the backyard, tending to her garden. David, you need to see this. She handed me her phone. LinkedIn was open to Marcus's profile. He'd updated his title, Senior Sales Director, Pinnacle Industries. Below that, a post that made my blood boil, thrilled to announce that I've successfully closed the largest deal in Pinnacle Industries history, a $22 million partnership with Pemberton Manufacturing. This has been an incredible journey of building relationships, understanding client needs, and developing innovative solutions. Grateful for this opportunity to make a real impact in the manufacturing industry. The post had dozens of likes and congratulatory comments. People from my industry, colleagues I'd known for years, all praising Marcus for his achievement. Sarah was watching my face. Aren't you angry? I handed her the phone back. No, I said. I'm impressed. Impressed? He's very thorough. He's not just stealing my work, he's rewriting history. Making sure everyone believes this was his deal from the beginning. That doesn't make you angry? I thought about it. No, it makes me curious. Curious about what? About what happens next. The third consequence came on Monday of the following week. I was having coffee at a local cafe, reading the morning news, when my phone buzzed. Text message from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Martinez, this is Tom Bradley from Pemberton Manufacturing. Janet Walsh gave me your number. Can we talk? It's urgent. Tom Bradley, Pemberton's CEO. I'd researched him extensively but never spoken to him directly. That had been Marcus's job, or so Marcus had claimed. I called him immediately. Mr. Bradley, this is David Martinez. You said it was urgent. David, thank you for calling so quickly. I'm going to cut right to the chase. We have a problem with our Pinnacle implementation, and frankly, we're not getting the support we need. I'm sorry to hear that. What kind of problems are you experiencing? Well, for starters, Marcus seems to have no understanding of the sustainability requirements we discussed. When our team asked about the carbon-neutral shipping protocols, he had no idea what they were talking about. He said he'd get back to us, but that was 4 days ago. My stomach dropped. Marcus didn't know about the sustainability protocols because I'd developed them after he'd already started his scheme. He had access to the presentation, but not to the deep background work that made it possible. That's concerning, I said carefully. It gets worse, Tom continued. We asked for the detailed implementation timeline you'd prepared, and he sent us a generic project plan that doesn't address any of our specific requirements. It's like he's never actually worked on our account before. He paused. David, I'm going to ask you directly. Did you develop this proposal? I closed my eyes. Mr. Bradley, I'm no longer with Pinnacle Industries. I think you need to address these concerns with them directly. I've tried that. I spoke with their CEO this morning, Harold Chen. He assured me that Marcus is fully qualified to handle our account and that any concerns were simply growing pains as he took over the lead role. Lead role? That's what he called it. He said you'd been Marcus's mentor, but that Marcus had been the primary architect of the proposal from the beginning. The lies were getting deeper. Harold wasn't just protecting Marcus now, he was actively participating in the deception. Mr. Bradley, I wish I could help you, but you can help us, he interrupted. What would it take to get you to consult on this implementation? We're willing to pay your standard rate, plus a bonus for the inconvenience. I was quiet for a long moment. I can't do that while the account belongs to Pinnacle. What if it didn't belong to Pinnacle? Now I was really paying attention. What do you mean? I mean, what if we terminated our contract with Pinnacle and hired you directly as our implementation consultant? $22 million. Walking away from Pinnacle and straight to me. Mr. Bradley, that would be a very expensive decision for your company. Not as expensive as implementing a solution incorrectly and having to fix it later. David, we did our due diligence on this deal. We know who really developed this proposal. Janet Walsh has filled me in on her interactions with both you and Marcus over the past few months. I see. The question is, are you available? I looked around the cafe, at all the people starting their Monday morning routines, heading to jobs they might love or hate, working for companies that might value them or discard them. A week ago, I'd been one of them. Let me think about it, I said. I'll need an answer by Wednesday. If we're going to make a change, we need to do it quickly. After he hung up, I sat there for an hour, staring at my coffee as it grew cold. Marcus had stolen my deal, destroyed my career, and convinced my former boss that I was the villain in this story. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd stolen the deal without understanding it. That night, Sarah and I talked until 3 in the morning. She was torn between loyalty to family and anger at what Marcus had done. I was torn between wanting justice and wanting peace. What does your gut tell you? She asked. My gut tells me that if I take this consulting contract, it's going to destroy Marcus's career and possibly damage my relationship with your sister permanently. Sarah was quiet for a moment. And how do you feel about that? I feel like Marcus made his choice when he decided to steal from me. Everything that happens from here is just consequences. Tuesday morning, I called Tom Bradley. I'll take the consulting contract, I said. But I have some conditions. Name them. First, I want everything in writing. A formal contract that clearly outlines my role, responsibilities, and compensation. Done. Second, I want Pinnacle to be notified officially that Pemberton is terminating their contract and why. Of course. Third, I want to be present when you make that call. Tom chuckled. That seems a little vindictive, David. Maybe. But I want to make sure the truth comes out. I want Marcus and Harold to understand exactly why they're losing this deal. Fair enough. When can you start? How about Thursday? Wednesday morning, I was sitting in Tom Bradley's office in Chicago when he placed the call to Harold Chen. He put it on speaker so I could hear both sides of the conversation. Harold, this is Tom Bradley from Pemberton Manufacturing. I'm calling to inform you that we're terminating our contract with Pinnacle Industries, effective immediately. Silence on Harold's end. Then, Tom, I don't understand. Is there a problem with our service? We can address any concerns, Harold. The problem is that the person you assigned to manage our account doesn't understand the work he's supposed to be implementing. I'm sure Marcus can address any technical questions. Marcus can't address anything because Marcus didn't develop the proposal. We both know that David Martinez was the real architect of this deal. Another silence. Longer this time. Tom, I'm not sure what you've been told, but I can assure you that Marcus, Harold, stop. We've done our homework. We know Marcus stole this deal from David. We know you fired David to cover it up. And we know that Marcus has no idea how to actually implement the solution he's claiming to have designed. That's a very serious accusation. It's not an accusation. It's a fact. We're terminating the contract and hiring David as an independent consultant to implement the solution he actually created. I could hear Harold's breathing getting heavier. Tom, if you have concerns about our team, we can make adjustments. The adjustment we're making is cutting ties with your company entirely. We'll be requiring a full refund of our deposit, as your team has failed to deliver the services promised in the contract. A full refund? Tom, that's nearly $2 million, Harold. You signed a contract guaranteeing that the person who developed our proposal would oversee its implementation. That person was David Martinez, and you fired him. You've breached the contract. We want our money back. The line went quiet for almost 30 seconds. Then Harold's voice, much smaller now, "Is David there with you?" Tom looked at me. I nodded. "Yes, he is." "David," Harold said, "can we talk about this? Maybe there's a way to work this out." This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for without even realizing I was waiting for it. "Hello, Harold," I said calmly. "How's Marcus doing with the account?" "David, please. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Maybe we acted too hastily. Maybe there's a place for you back at Pinnacle. You want to give me my job back. I think we should discuss it. This is a valuable relationship, and if you feel there were some communication issues. I laughed. "Harold, you fired me for stealing credit from Marcus. Now you want to rehire me because Marcus stole credit from me. Do you see the problem here? David, please. Let's be reasonable adults about this." "I am being reasonable, Harold. I'm consulting for a client who values my work. That's as reasonable as it gets. What would it take to bring you back? We could discuss a promotion, a raise, maybe even profit sharing on this deal." "Harold," I said, 3 weeks ago, I would have done anything to keep my job at Pinnacle. I loved that company. I gave you 12 years of my life. But you chose to believe Marcus over me without even investigating his claims. We can investigate now. It's too late for that." Tom Bradley had been listening to this exchange with obvious satisfaction. Now he spoke up. "Harold, let me make this clear. Pemberton Manufacturing will not be doing business with Pinnacle Industries again. Ever. We've already begun discussions with your competitors about our other supply needs." "Other supply needs?" "Harold, Pinnacle wasn't just handling this $22 million contract. We were planning to consolidate all our supply chain management through one partner. That would have been worth roughly $60 million annually. $60 million annually. I felt the blood drain from my face. Even Marcus couldn't have known about that. It was information that would have come out during implementation, as trust built and the relationship deepened. Harold's voice was barely a whisper. 60 million? That's not happening now, obviously. We can't work with a company that lies to its clients about who's actually doing the work." After Tom hung up, he turned to me with a grin. I think that went well. I was still processing the magnitude of what had just happened. 60 million annually? David, this $22 million deal was a test. We wanted to see if Pinnacle could handle a small piece of our business before we gave them everything. Marcus just cost his company the biggest partnership in their history. I drove back home that afternoon in a daze. Sarah was waiting for me with a bottle of wine and a complicated expression. "Well," she said, "it's over. Pemberton terminated the contract. They want me to implement the solution as an independent consultant." She hugged me, but I could feel the tension in her body. What about Marcus? What about him? David, he's going to be destroyed by this. Harold will probably fire him. His career could be over before it even started. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat down heavily in my favorite chair. Sarah, Marcus made a choice. He decided to steal from me, lie to our family, and destroy my career. Everything that's happening to him now is a direct result of that choice. But he's just a kid, he's 26 years old. He has an MBA from Wharton. He's not a child, and he's not naive. He knew exactly what he was doing. Sarah sat across from me, her wine untouched. My sister is going to blame us for this. No, I said. Your sister is going to blame Marcus for this, once she understands what really happened. But I was wrong about that. Thursday morning, my phone rang at 6 a.m. Sarah's sister, Linda, Marcus's mother. How could you do this to him? She screamed before I could even say hello. Linda, he called me crying last night. Crying, David. They fired him. Harold Chen said he'd never work in sales again. You destroyed my son's life. I looked at Sarah, who was sitting up in bed, her face pale. Linda, did Marcus tell you what he did? He made a mistake. He's young, he was trying to prove himself, he didn't make a mistake. He systematically stole 6 months of my work, destroyed my reputation, and got me fired from a job I loved. You're a successful man, David. You'll land on your feet. But Marcus is just starting his career, and he started it by committing fraud. It wasn't fraud, Linda, he forged emails. He lied to clients about his role in the account. He manipulated documents to frame me for his crimes. That's textbook fraud. You're being vindictive. I'm being honest. The conversation went downhill from there. Linda hung up on me after accusing me of jealousy, pettiness, and ruining her family. Sarah spent the rest of the morning crying. Maybe we should have handled this differently, she said. How? Maybe we should have confronted Marcus directly instead of letting him get fired. I sat down next to her on the bed. Sarah, I didn't get Marcus fired. Marcus got Marcus fired by stealing from his employer and lying to clients. I just gave Pemberton the information they needed to make an informed decision. But his family. Family doesn't mean you get to destroy someone's life without consequences. She was quiet for a long time. Then, what happens now? Now I start my consulting contract with Pemberton. Now I rebuild my career. Now we move forward. The implementation went perfectly. Working directly with Pemberton's team, without the corporate bureaucracy of Pinnacle, I was able to execute the sustainability initiative exactly as I'd envisioned it. Tom Bradley was thrilled with the results. David, he said during our final meeting, this has exceeded our expectations in every possible way. We're saving money, reducing our environmental impact, and improving our operational efficiency. I'm glad I could help. More than help. You've transformed how we think about supply chain management. He paused. I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. What would you say to a permanent consulting arrangement? We're expanding into 3 new markets over the next 2 years. We need someone who understands our business, our values, and our goals. Someone who can develop sustainable solutions for complex problems. The number he mentioned made my head spin. More money than I'd ever made at Pinnacle. More than I'd ever imagined making. That's a very generous offer, I said. It gets better. We've been talking to some of our industry partners about your work. Companies that are looking for exactly the kind of expertise you provide. If you're interested, we could refer them to you as well. He handed me a list of companies. Fortune 500 manufacturers, all potential clients, all worth millions in consulting fees. Tom, this is incredible, but I have to ask, why are you doing this? He smiled. David, in 30 years of business, I've learned that there are 2 types of people, those who take credit for other people's work, and those who actually do the work. The first type is common. The second type is rare. When you find someone in the second category, you do everything you can to keep them in your orbit. I called Sarah on my way to the airport. Pack your bags, I told her. We're going to look at beach houses this weekend. 3 months later, I was running my own consulting firm with 6 full-time employees and a waiting list of potential clients. Sarah had quit her job to manage the business side of the company. We'd bought the beach house, a beautiful property overlooking the Pacific Ocean, with a home office that had better views than any corporate building I'd ever worked in. Life was good. Better than good. Then Marcus called. I almost didn't answer. The number showed up as Marcus Hoffman on my caller ID, and my first instinct was to decline the call. But curiosity got the better of me. Hello, Marcus. Uncle David. His voice was different. Smaller. Thank you for taking my call. What do you want, Marcus? I want to apologize. I walked out onto my deck, looking at the ocean. Apologize for what, specifically? For everything. For lying. For stealing your work. For getting you fired. For destroying your career. You didn't destroy my career, Marcus. You destroyed yours. He was quiet for a moment. I know. I know you're doing well now. I've been following your company. I'm proud of what you've accomplished. Are you? Yes. And I'm ashamed of what I did. What do you want from me, Marcus? Nothing, he said quickly. I don't want anything. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I threw away. Not just the job, but your trust. Your friendship. Your respect. I waited for him to continue. I haven't been able to find work anywhere, he said. Word gets around in this industry. Everyone knows what happened with Pemberton. Harold made sure of that when he fired me. Harold protected you for weeks while he thought you were telling the truth. I know. And when he realized I wasn't, he felt betrayed too. He said I'd made him complicit in fraud. That I'd damaged Pinnacle's reputation and cost them their biggest potential client. You did. I know. His voice cracked. Uncle David, I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my relationship with Mom, my apartment. I'm living in a studio apartment in Queens, working at a cell phone store. I felt a flicker of something, not quite sympathy, but not satisfaction either. I'm sorry to hear that, Marcus. Are you? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean? I mean, are you really sorry? Or are you happy that I'm suffering? I thought about it honestly. I'm not happy that you're suffering, Marcus. But I'm not sorry that you're facing consequences for your actions either. That's fair. We were both quiet for a minute. Then Marcus spoke again. Uncle David,